Welcome, everybody. David and Jeff Bush from Grow My Profit here today, and we've got a couple of special guests with us and excited to be able to share this topic. Jeff and I, we built growmyprofit.com all on the idea of growing profit through building profitable revenue, increasing sales, increasing efficiencies. But what we're going to talk about today is a different topic. It's in regards to growing profit by cutting expenses. And obviously, that's a big opportunity for growing profit. And we just don't talk a lot about that. So we went out and found a couple of experts that have a lot of experience on this particular topic. And I think you're going to be wowed by their expertise and experience. Two things that they have a tremendous amount of. And we're super excited to tap into their wisdom and share with you some strategies to grow your profit and to improve your EBITDA, to fund growth, and to cut out some of the wasted costs and expenses that you are currently experiencing or that you may experience in the future. So today we get the opportunity to hang out with Mike Hanner and JW White from Bridgemark Insurance Group, which is a division of the Patriot Growth Insurance Services, one of the 30th largest insurance benefit consultants in the US. Mike's an accomplished Thunderbird School of Global Management. He's also traveled globally working and creating solutions for a multitude of business challenges, and wait till you hear some of the technical expertise that he has. JW is a proud Kansas State Wildcat, known as one of the worst college football programs in history, but they actually have been an amazing team over the last 10 years, ever since JW left. Isn't that right, Nat? No, I'm just kidding.
Absolutely.
JW's been a great friend. He actually was the quarterback coach that helped my son, and so been really fun to be able to get to know him and learn more about his multiple letters playing football while becoming an academic All-American. So a couple of bright dudes here. Between the two of these guys, they've got over 30 years of experience developing and implementing HR and benefits and risk management solutions for employers, both large and small, in nearly every one of the 50 states. So I'm excited to get a chance to interview you guys. Jeff and I are going to put you on the hot seat. We got a couple of questions that we feel that our audience of business owners that want to scale their businesses, that want to grow their profit, are going to definitely want to hear some answers to. So welcome to the webinar, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
So let's just jump right into it and talk about why it's so important for an employer to assess how to improve EBITDA with your guys' organization, because you guys have a unique approach to it. So Mike, you want to take that, or JW?
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, EBITDA, it's an indication of how well a company's managing its operations day to day, right? So including its core expenses, its cost of goods sold. In our case, the employee benefits cost, right? The healthcare budget. So in the various functional roles that we're engaging with our clients and prospects as such, we're at the C-suite, heads of HR, right? So as well. And so when we're talking with the CEO, for example, they want to take EBITDA, right? Earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization, right? Their profits into fund growth. A CFO wants to take that EBITDA and demonstrate that they've increased it, right? And freed up funds. And heads of HR typically want what's best for their staff, right? What's best for their employees, better benefits, communication, all the tools and resources needed to do those things. And so when we're talking with them, EBITDA might not be on their radar at first in terms of importance, but once they understand the tools and resources that they need, they're going to need additional EBITDA, right? The funds to deploy those resources.
Yeah.
Yep. I would just add this. It's kind of funny how, if you think about it, each of those three different areas, Mike just talked about CEO, CFO, and HR, sounds like they have different goals. But ultimately, when you kind of combine it all together, number one is we all want to improve our EBITDA because it gives something back to the business. And so we're all working at it along the same path, maybe just with a little different communication. We can understand why each of them work together so well and so closely. So I think that's one of our strengths in working with all different levels. Again, everybody's brings a mindset to the game, but we've got to combine them together to make it the most efficient solution.
Yeah, Jeff, I know that you've, when you had your 8-figure exit just a few years ago, selling your direct marketing agency, you had a big drive on EBITDA. You want to talk a little bit about that, and what are some of the ways that you looked at that?
One of the things I was just thinking about, just funny story, is when you're talking about those department heads, new CEO comes in and goes, hey, we're going to increase the EBITDA by cutting benefits. HR manager, you get to go deliver the news, and she or he's like, oh God, this is horrible. I remember when I sold the company, and I had 70 employees, and the guys who bought me had, I don't know, 2,000. Everyone's like excited about the new benefits plan, and then they come in with something worse. I'm like, hey, I had a better benefits plan with a 70-person company than you guys did with two. It's just funny how they play with the numbers. The CFO comes in and goes, hey, we're going to pay less here and we're going to cut the plan here. And it's like, hey, what about the team? The team's important. You got to keep people happy. So the balance of HR manager, CEO, CFO, that's a delicate balance, and everybody's got to be on the same page. So I love how you started that. It just reminded me of that story. Like, hey, our new health plan is crap, and it's like, and we're selling them, hey, it's going to get better. You're going to be part of a new team, a bigger organization. And anyways, it's just funny because I had that experience like 1.5 years ago, because I sell the company. They want me to stick around for 2 years, right? And I'm trying to like implement all the new stuff. And they're like, we need you to be on board for this and that. And I'm like, hey, I'm not on board with that. You guys are from Chicago. We're in Southern California. You guys have a little different plan on this, COVID vaccine and who's wearing. I mean, it was crazy, right? Trying to implement. Anyways, I'll try not to digress, but I had to focus 80% of my time on driving revenue at my company every single day. If I had 8 hours in a day, 7 hours was go get more revenue, increase margin. If that's adding products, go do more marketing, lead gen. 20% of my time was spent on HR and insurance and legal and accounting, because that stuff didn't make me money. So it was so important that I partnered up with people that had my best interest in mind, like you guys do. Like, you're going to do this, act like this is your money, and just put the plan in place. Someone else is going to implement it. It's not going to be me, because I got to keep my eye on the revenue, right? That's really increasing the EBITDA. So yeah, I think it's great to have somebody that has your best interest in mind, because you're really a partner. And all of my vendors, the POs that I had, the insurance people, were all partners. And if I caught them not being a partner and doing what was good for them and not good for me, you're gone. I find a new one. So anyways, it's great to have you guys on the call, bringing some important things to an operation that's growing. When I went from 5 employees to 70 in 3 years, it's craziness, right? I'm doing 20 interviews a month just trying to onboard people. I can't figure out, the benefits plan and what our workman's comp, factor rate is. Like, don't get me doing that stuff, because, so anyways, that's just
Wasn't your exit value based on EBITDA as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
It's a multiple on EBITDA. So yeah, you're trying to drive more to the bottom line without crushing the company. You're growing. I'm reinvesting money to get bigger revenue, bigger earnings. And it's like, when do you stop spending and growing? And I remember when I went into escrow on the company, I'm like, hey, we can cut some corners here. Let's not spend money. And they're like, nope, just move forward. Like, you're running the business and you're never selling it, which was good advice, just so sales don't slow down, employees don't get upset. It was an interesting time, that 6 months in due diligence from offer to close. You don't rock the boat. Like, just keep running this thing like it's going to be yours. So anyways.
Yeah, and that's why it's so beneficial to have strategic advisors that can come in as a third person, because if the news comes from you, from the top down, that benefits or changing, or focus is going to be on EBITDA growth and not necessarily on a good quality benefits plan, then you've got disgruntled employees, you've got people that become absentee, even though they're showing up to work. They're maybe not working as hard because they're not getting the same thing that they got before. So it's really important to have a good signal caller. JW, being a quarterback, he understands the idea about being able to make sure that everybody understands the vision, the mission, and the goals, and why we're doing what we're doing. And without that, you could have some pretty chaotic situations. And if you're all focused on EBITDA growth, on growing sales and improving margins, but you're not getting all the employees on board, you're not getting that presenteeism, where you're really getting everybody's on the right direction, they have the common vision and mission, you're going to have drag, and you're going to not get the performance that you want. So, JW, we've got, it seems like on the monthly, business owners are getting increases, and every year when they come up for that renewal, it's like there's another increase. So how are you handling that with increasing insurance costs to still be able to grow EBITDA?
Well, we use a lot of different strategies. I've been in this world of insurance for a long time now. So I started out working on very large accounts, and I've kind of tried to take that strategy from the large employer all the way down to the small employer, because ultimately everybody's got some of the same needs. Is how do I deliver the message, engage the employees, educate the employees, provide an exceptional experience for the employees, and then what method does it all combine together? So we're big into artificial intelligence. AI is a thing of the present. It's no longer the thing of the future. AI can truly help you in multiple different ways. The research that AI can do to help save time, effort, and energy, not only for the employees but for the HR team. We do a lot of direct contracting, direct primary care. We've got captive-based solutions, things like that. So we basically go and find the right mix for each individual client based upon what they need, how they actually work with their employees, how they communicate with their employees. So from that standpoint, I really think it's being cutting edge, understanding what the market needs, understanding what's available, and then flipping the right switch to drive the best result. Because ultimately, Jeff, kind of goes back to what you were talking about, is as you were focused on growth and sales and things like that. Our goal is to make it so the employees are the most productive and the most efficient that they possibly can be. And if they have a crappy insurance program, they're not going to be very productive, efficient employees. And so ultimately, we've got to drive the right plans to the right employers for the right price so that the employees are happy, but yet our costs are controlled. I think that's the best thing I can say. Really fun comment is about 3 months ago, I was actually just working with an employer group, and they were mid-sized market, and he goes, "You realize you're my third best sales guy?" And it's because I was able to save them financially the third most money in regards to, if you compare that, what we saved them in costs to what the sales guys made.
Wow.
So I was his third best sales guy. So it has been a long-standing relationship. So I've worked with him for 10 plus years, but that employer really understands what we're doing to EBITDA.
Well, I'd like to see that Patriot Growth Insurance Company services sign change to Profit Growth Insurance Strategy. I know that you've got obviously client relationships you're not going to divulge, but could you just kind of like walk us through an example? Like, what would be an example client experience where they saw direct correlation improvement into their EBITDA, and what were some of the key critical success factors that made that to be actual reality?
Mike, I can pull up some slides. Dave, I think, we do a lot from a presentation standpoint. It's educating employers, right? Mike,
Yeah.
let me pull something up right quick. Hold on, guys. Let me see if
Hey,
I can.
JW, while you're looking at that, can I ask a question maybe to Mike while you're pulling that up? What do you
Absolutely.
consider small, medium, large? Like I had 70 employees. I think I'm still considered a small business. I've had 3 companies with 60 or 70 employees. What's the category small, medium, and large? I know we're talking to a lot of business owners that have just went from small 5 employees to 50, or 50 employees to 100. Is that all small, or does that get into medium? What's your numbers? I'm just curious because I don't know.
Yeah, I can jump in and give some clarity there. And there's a little gray here, but generally speaking, with regards to rate markets and the types of insurance products, it'll vary. So whether it's fully insured or self-funded or level funded might drive this conversation in a different direction. But in general, 2 to 50 employees is considered small.
Okay.
Employers, in other words, most of those folks are in a fully insured product where they have a shelf rate. You're going down aisle 3, you're buying the ketchup and mustard you want, and you go to the checkout and you pay $3.99 for your favorite yellow mustard. You're not going to negotiate that, right, with the checkout person. You're just going to buy it. That's the 2 to 50 market in most cases. There's exceptions to that rule where you can be underwritten, but I'll save that maybe for another time. 50 to 99 or 50 to 100 is considered that mid-market space, and the 100 plus would be large. Enterprise is significantly larger than that even, but each of those markets will represent a different approach, a different strategic approach from us, a different regulatory environment under ACA and other legal considerations. So yeah, those are kind of the general 3 markets, real high level.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. No, but to get to your question is like, here's some examples. So hopefully you guys can see my screen. It says 24/7 healthcare concierge. That's ultimately what we're doing for the employer, is we're actually removing a lot of the burden and liability from the HR team, who has got 48 different hats they have to wear. Whether it's the C-suite, doesn't matter. Everybody's got to play a role, but hopefully our expertise will help the employees the most. Medical bill reviews. When's the last time anybody understood what a bill from a provider looks like and why it says this versus that? Resolving claims issues, making provider recommendations. So our artificial intelligence does all the due diligence, does all the work for you. It goes and understands, all right, employer A, this is, client A, Dr. A is going to charge this, Dr. B is going to charge this, Dr. C is going to charge this. Here's their reviews. Which one would you like to see? I even love ours because I use our programs as well. It'll even take it so far as it can actually set an appointments for you. So it really, from soup to nuts, it's taking a lot of the burden off of the employee. It's taking a lot of the burden off the HR team, because our AI can answer almost all benefit related questions. So no longer does JW employee number 4848 have to go to the employer group and say, hey, all right, I don't understand this, or I don't have this, or I don't need this, or I lost my card. Artificial intelligence can take all that workload off of your team. Doesn't remove you from knowing what's going on. We still have all the reports we can pull. We can get frequently asked questions. We can understand what they're doing, why they're doing it. But that's an example of some of the things.
You're freeing up time, and time is money, and that's just one more area of efficiency.
Huge. Here's an actual client example. So large or small, right? We're not talking, everybody's going to have a different experience. This is only 99 total lives, 99 employees. Our AI program was able to generate $184,000 in savings just over 1,300 days. So that's 3 years. So we're looking at, there's $60,000+ a year. This program saved almost $1,900 a member. Like that's pretty impressive in a fairly short period of time. You look at the number of appointments and schedules. So 99 employees, almost every single one of them used it to schedule at least one appointment. So little things like this. Best part is everything about this, we let the employees review whether or not it was worked well for them, didn't work well for them. Out of 5 stars, 4.9, 2,300 positive reviews. Can't ask for much better than that. Some other things. So like we talk about steerage, finding providers, making recommendations where to go. This is an example. If you take a average population of 500 employees and you look at the primary care visit specialists, imaging, labs, whatever it may be, urgent care, utilizing our artificial intelligence, if just a very small percentage utilize this, we can show a minimum of $35,000 in savings.
Wow.
That's pretty, like that's half of an employee's salary.
Yeah. Just thinking about growing sales, is that how much increase in marketing and increase in labor costs would you have to create
to generate
an additional $36,000 in profit?
Correct. And so it's just right there. So, we'll get in maybe some of the other things that we put in a lot of slides, but just how we do it and the delivery. I know at some point you're going to ask me, what is the biggest factor of increases? It's pharmacy. And so I'll take it right now, because ultimately, this is one of my favorite slides. So this is an actual client of ours. They had almost in the plan year from 1/1 of 22 to 12/31 of 22, almost $10 million in pharmacy spend. We actually went to market. We looked at some other solutions and we chose a different pharmacy vendor. And that pharmacy vendor guaranteed $1.4 million in savings. Utilizing the right providers, understanding the market, understanding transparent PBMs and what they do and how they do it, making sure you're doing the right analysis. That's the guarantee. The expected savings is over $2 million.
Wow.
You ask me, that's a big number. You ask most employers, that's a big number. So from that standpoint, I got to think we're doing something right when we talk about, hey, we really are improving the plan. And that, just so you know, that example, that was without changing a single copay for a single employee. It was without dropping a single medication. It was just sourcing it properly, charging it properly, and delivering it properly. That's it.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of the business owners we're working with are moving towards a sale. And I'm thinking, okay, I saved $1.4 million, right? That hits my EBITDA. But on a 10 times multiple, I just made $14 million at exit. And they're looking at a trailing 12. They're looking at the last 12 months. You can't do this late in the game. You got to do it a year or two before you sell, because driving more earnings, like you said, as long as it's a good plan and you're not losing employees out the back door. I remember during COVID, it was so hard to hire people. Remember, people were getting, I think in California, they were getting $800 a week for unemployment, $3,200 a month take home pay. I had 50 employees making $5,000 a month. They were making more at home, sitting home, and it was hard to keep people. But the benefits plan, hey, if you're on unemployment, you lose your insurance. That was, that was like one of the motivating factors. That was a tough time, 2020 and 21. But it's interesting. You start multiplying that on a 5 times multiple or 10 times multiple. That's a big number. It's not just earnings per year and you get to up your payroll as the CEO. It's like, what about exit value? Because all that comes into it. So that's a big number.
I know that back in the day, when Jeff and I were younger, we may have drank a lot of Thunderbird, but Mike, you went to the Thunderbird School of Management, global school of management, and I know that you kind of geek out on some benchmarking and some tools and things of that nature. What kind of tools and stuff do you love using or giving to clients to help them to understand how to benchmark and do all this stuff?
Yeah, I am kind of a geek when it comes to the data. I love our benchmarking tool. It's a complimentary tool that we give all of our clients. It's not lost on leaders, right? Small and large organizations, that benchmarking is a valuable resource, but I can't tell you how many times we come across folks who don't use that data and or have limited data about that. And it's something you have to refresh often. It's like a business plan, right? You don't just write it once and then never look at it again. It's a breathing document. One of the shortcomings we found when looking at benchmarking solutions for our clients is most of us have a very short attention span as leaders in organizations, right? We want things concise, fast, and bullet points, quick, easy to read. And if we really need to get into the weeds, have a deep dive opportunity with lots of text. The problem is a lot of these solutions in the market just are super cumbersome to use. So JW and I, we started offering a benchmarking tool with a lot of thought and intent around the idea of how can we get this really impactful data into infographics and into a short, let's call it a handful of pages of just colorful, boom, this is how you compare to the national market, the local market, the regional market in your industry vertical with your specific size companies. And obviously companies are doing this for various reasons. In our world, the biggest ones, retention, attrition, knowing how you stack and compare up. So we're dissecting things like employer contribution, how do you stack up, your plan design, your medical and ancillary benefits, do you offer short and long-term disability, are your competitors offering that, and if so, what are those thresholds and value that's built into those contracts? How do your leave benefits compare? What's your 401k and or retirement look like compared to your competitors? And then there's this really cool part of it that I kind of geek out on this part. It organizes all of these benefits in a colorful kind of a sequence of what's the most important thing for each age group, each gender, for these regions in this industry, for all of these different types of benefits, medical, dental, vision, life, disability, 401k, pet insurance, you name it, leave benefits, and it organizes it in a way that shows you, cool, are we dumping enough resources and energy into those products compared to what our competition is, who might be stealing our employees and or we're not able to attract and retain. And so it shows the national comparison and everything. And it's one of the really coolest tools that we have. And I could spend a lot of time talking about it. We also have a really cool compliance assessment. JW, I know you've got some really good ideas around our compliance assessment and have a lot more knowledge in that area under ACA.
Yeah, now, Dave, going back to this tools that employers need, and Jeff is exit strategies. One of the things that you've got to prepare for is, all right, anybody that's doing their job is going to review, what are you doing in regards to your employee benefits plans? What liabilities do you have? What risks do they have that they're taking on? Are their employer files stored properly and securely? So we actually go through we can't go through a very complex and diligent review of their compliance solutions and what they're doing and how they're doing it from an employer standpoint, and then help them rectify that. We do a lot of that, but we also then go through and make sure they've got their wrap documents, their SPDs, their things like that. I've done a lot of public speaking in regards to what does it mean to be a compliant employer, what does it mean to be a valued employer, and things of that nature. Going back to to COVID and even farther back than that, when Obamacare first rolled out, I did a lot of public speaking in regards to the do's and the don'ts of that. So, working with large employers, a lot of the large employers think they've got it all figured out, but sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. And so making sure that mid to small employer has access to all the tools, all the resources, all the expertise, it's critical because they're the ones that are going to get hit first, because they don't have the attorneys to fight stuff. And so how do we align them properly? How do we protect them properly? So, our compliance assessments, our risk management tools, those are very important things that a lot of our clients utilize.
Yeah, well, the thing that I think that we are probably the most awakened to, and being in the consulting role now versus being on the field, in the coaching perspective, you've got the players that are playing the game, and then you got the coach on the sideline, and you got the coach up in the box, and there's three different perspectives, and all of them matter. There's things that the players see that the coach on the sideline doesn't see. There's things on the sideline the coaches see that the players and the coaches in the box may not see, and then there's things that the coach in the box is going to see. So it's good to have those trustworthy advisors giving you that different perspective and exploiting some of those opportunities. I mean, we know from a football standpoint is that when we see a particular defense lined up in a specific way and we've got an offensive play to exploit that, we want to take advantage of that. And I think that that's where, a lot of yours and Mike's experience and expertise in implementing these plans really helps to help businesses to win. So in terms of our next question is, when it comes down to improving EBITDA, won't that take away from employee benefits? I mean, that's what Jeff had referenced earlier. Isn't that a traditional, give and get type of an opportunity?
Yeah, I'll jump in on this one. That's a great question, by the way, Dave. I will tell you that most firms, most agencies do that, I think, just out of sheer laziness. And or potentially they just don't understand how to drive utilization and change behavior over time. Quite frankly, that's a heavier lift, right? It's harder to get folks to use the benefits the way that they need to be used for not just their sake, but for the employer's sake and for the plan, the healthiness of the plan, right? For it to run well. But at the end of the day, you've got to be able to do the right thing for the client and teach them and invest that time, effort, and energy to potentially peel away some of the contracts that you have and put in stronger contracts. That takes time, negotiation, effort, energy. And a lot of the other folks in this space that are doing this kind of work, the low-hanging fruit, right? The water takes the path of least resistance down the hill, is to cut benefits. So they, and most, many employers, of course, don't want to do that. Most don't want to do that, but they don't necessarily know how to not do it. And so for us, you kind of got to look inward and then meet them where they're at and make sure that they understand some of the ways that we would do that. And so I would say that 100% no, you don't have to reduce the benefits strategy or the design or, increase deductibles or max out of pockets or increase copays if you're doing it the right way.
Yeah, and I just go back to that idea about having a really good coach with good perspective, because I'm sure a lot of employers, a lot of maybe people that are watching this is like, I've got a benefits person, right? Well, just because you have a person that is helping you with your benefits or your insurance services doesn't necessarily mean that they're an expert to be able to help you to execute on increasing your EBITDA. JW, anything you want to add to that?
No, I think Mike did a great job. Ultimately it's unique to each individual opportunity. And, we're going to do everything we can to control what we can control. Obviously, there's certain risk factors that we're not in control of, but at the same time, ultimately having transparent information and open dialogue to make sure that they can make good business decisions is our number one goal.
Yeah. Jeff, we talk about in the Grow My Profit 6 steps, we're really focusing in on 4 major factors of benchmarking. First, beginning with an end in mind. What is your desired outcome? Where are you taking this business? Where do you want to have an exit at? Even if you never want to sell the company, when do you want to be in a position where you have time freedom? Or when do you want to be in a position where you no longer have to be at work to continue to get a paycheck, if that's a desire of yours? And then we have those 3 major plans: the financial scorecard, financial plan, making sure you have your metrics with your sales teams and you're performing at a certain revenue and margin. And then you've got your marketing plan. What are the marketing metrics and the benchmarks you need to hit? And then the third piece is this operations plan. And I know that a lot of your time, you said 80% of your time was focusing in on the first three, like taking the business to where you want to go, financial and marketing. What are you hearing from these guys today, just from a business owner perspective, on the operational piece to growing EBITDA and growing profit?
I don't know why this story just came to mind, but a friend of mine just bought a new GMC diesel quad cab 4-wheel drive truck. It's like, I got it for $95,000, man. I stole it. It was, 10 grand off instead of 105,000. And I'm like, that GMC dealer sells 200 cars a month. You buy one every 4 years. Trust me, they won, you lost. Every time. A car dealer that sells 200 cars a month, they're masters at it. You're never going to beat them. And what came to mind was, how many insurance, HR, benefits plans did I look at over 15 years in 2 different businesses? I mean, three in 15 years. You guys look at like, 30 a week. So it's like they have a whole different perspective. I think sometimes CEOs, and specifically I can think of a lot of friends of mine, like the CEO that just bought this truck, who thought he got a great deal, and he only looked at one dealer. He didn't shop. I'm like, dude, like, trust me, car dealer won, you lost. They don't sell cars at a loss. But in these plans, it's just being open to bringing in partners and getting some second opinions, right? If I've only looked at 2 over 15 years, just to have some outside perspective. Somebody that looks at these plans like, 30 times a month, and I do it once every 10 years, they're probably going to have another perspective and being open to that. But putting time on your calendar for stuff like this to sit down and meet and analyze. I mean, it's not always easy. Hey, give us your payroll records. Let's see your insurance. I mean, there's a lot of documentation. It might take a CEO a couple hours with some help to get it all put together, but to shop and compare and just understand it a little bit more. Another thing I want to bring up, that when I first went to sell my company in 2018, I had an advisor come in. He goes, Jeff, your company's held together with like bubble gum and cardboard and a little bit of duct tape. He goes, no professional companies are going to come in and buy this thing. This is a train wreck. You're obviously a sales organization. Your back end is a mess, And I remember having to go into cleanup mode. And I'm not a compliance guy. So I'm not good at that. I'm not an engineer. I'm not analytical. Like, I sell and I can drive that part of the business, but this part I'm really bad at. So I brought people in that helped. We buttoned up that company and the balance sheet and I remember, hey, what's that 117,000? That's accrued vacation. You got to pay that out if they quit. You got a liability. And I'm like, oh crap, that was just not stuff that I was good at. I don't want to be good at that. That's not what made my company successful. But having these outside advisors, it's just super important. I think people downplay it sometimes. And it can be, hey, Jeff, you got some skeletons in your closet. This is going to open you up to a lawsuit, Have you thought about this? So it was just interesting trying to make a company pretty and solid. And the more professional I looked, the more people wanted to buy it. The more it was like rinky dink and I'm forgetting about this and this wasn't right. It's like just cleaning it up. It's, a friend of mine, Dan Kennedy, famous marketing speaker, he told me 15 years ago, Jeff, you spend 90% of your time driving sales and revenue and marketing. Do me a favor, take 50% of your time and build the value of your company. So someday when you sell it, you'll get a bigger chunk of money. And I never forgot that. I don't know if I ever got to the point of spending 50%, but what we're talking about is a more holistic investing in the company's value. Someday, even if you're not looking to sell right now, you might sell in 10 years and your kids might get the money, but you want them to get $10 million or 30 million. It's a big freaking difference, So anyways, buttoning it up, those are just some thoughts that came.
Yeah, I love Warren Buffett has this great quote. He says, it's not how hard you paddle, it's the boat that you're in. And if you're in the wrong benefits boat, it doesn't make a difference how hard you paddle. You're not going to go to where you want to go as fast as you want to go, but you get into the right boat and you have some good expertise and good wisdom and good experience and all those things, you can go a whole lot faster. And then the other quote I heard is that there was I think it was the English rowing team, and they wanted to win the Olympics or some big race. And their big question was, everything that they did, it ran through this filter. Does it make the boat go faster? And so if right now your benefits plan, your insurance services are not accelerating the speed of your boat to grow 2 to 10x, you got to look at this stuff. You got to do the evaluation, even if you're, mom's the insurance broker that you're working with. You got to have a conversation and say, does this benefits package help the boat go faster, or does it grow EBITDA? Because if it doesn't, we may be on the wrong trajectory, or we're just going to be missing our goals and not really fully leveraging ourselves. So, I know that there's some people watching this, Mike and JW. It's like, it's too good to be true. Why isn't everybody doing it? Why isn't all the brokers doing it? So what do you guys have to say to that?
Mike, you want to answer that?
Yeah, I mean, look, we get feedback all the time when we're partnering with new companies. One of their biggest frustrations is just lack of transparency and honesty. This doesn't show up in the rates, right? This doesn't show up in the plans, but these are experiences they have with their past brokers. So when people are looking at agencies to work with, right, partners, right, look for a partner, right, look for somebody that's not checking a box and talking to you in a year and going down aisle 3 and grabbing whatever rates available from the carrier. Make sure that they're helping you ask the right questions and that they're forthcoming with you, because sometimes the news could, let's say your company has, a bad year in terms of claims and utilization. Somebody got in a car accident, somebody was diagnosed with something unfortunate. You need to be able to have an honest conversation, a transparent relationship with your client. After all, right, transparency is the pillar of trust, and it's something important to look for. A lot of brokers and consultants are just sales shops. I'm not saying they all are. There's a lot of great firms out there, but they're not building that kind of relationship. And so that's really important to us to differentiate. Of course, having great tools and resources, but just being honest with them. They have to believe you. They have to like you if they're going to trust you. And so I think I would say that, in terms of why other broker and consultants aren't doing this, is because everything is skills and abilities, and the traits are often lost because employers are so crammed for time. They're just looking for rates. They're not taking the time often. Sometimes they are, but they're often not taking the time to really get to know the team that they're going to be in that foxhole with.
Yeah. Well, I know that when we work with organizations, we usually, we'll tell them that, it's going to be a minimum of 90 to 180 days before we can really grow profit. You're going to have to invest a bit into this opportunity to get this thing righted. What's your guys' time frame? I mean, what does it typically take for you to increase the EBITDA of an organization that signs up with you?
Yeah, I'll grab that one. That's a great question. It's almost impossible to answer because every employer group and every client is different, right? Small versus large, fully insured versus self-funded, current strategy versus, what they really want. There are times when we can come in and make immediate changes, and within weeks, a month, 2 months, you see an immediate value. Sometimes it's 6 months. Sometimes it's 12 months. And ultimately the goal is, over, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, not only are you seeing that increase in EBITDA, but you're also sustaining that, because ultimately, it's not a race to zero. It's a race to the right number, and it's a race to the right solution. And sometimes we can get there faster than others, but it's really about engagement and empowerment, both from the employer side and from the employee side.
I would echo everything JW said. I would also add the capacity of an organization. I mean, you guys know, you've built and sold companies, right? Some of these organizations, they don't have the bandwidth, even if we have the right solution, in 6 months or in 3 weeks. But we prioritize those things with them and figure out and meet them where they're at, right? And figure that out. But the variability is largely depends on their capacity, their willingness, and then also how quickly do their employees, particularly on the employee-facing tools and resources, how quickly do the employees adopt those solutions, and how effective is the ambassador for our client? Because somebody internally has to be that ambassador too, right? So of course we start with buy-in at the leadership level, and then day-to-day team. But that buy-in is really important for employees, and that can take some time. And it is an investment of time, effort, and energy, but the ROI is almost always there.
Yeah, well, I know that when we provide strategies in terms of growing a business, it requires execution. So I'm curious, how does your guys' organization work with different businesses of different sizes to implement these types of programs? Do you have like a point person, or is it, how much time does that person need to have to get this thing implemented?
Yeah, that'll vary on kind of where the relationship's at, but what doesn't vary is our approach. So whether it's JW or myself or another member of our team, we'll always first fact find, right? It's all about timing also. So we want to collect the data, assess the data, prioritize the data, and then collaborate and execute against the strategy based on each of those folks' needs. And so again, back to time and resource constraints and things, we'll literally go through a very linear objective process to fact find, so that we're not just ready, fire, aim, right? Oh, we hear a trigger word that makes us jump right into a solution. We find that that's harder to unwind if done properly than to be more methodical about it. So once we get to know the person, we understand what makes them tick, we understand how the organization works, we'll then really objectively peel back all of the bottlenecks, right, in their process that might hinder our ability to deploy a solution. For example, they might not have a great way to communicate with their staff because half of their staff is in an office and the other half is out in the field or on a construction site, right? So we would need to find out, okay, what tools and resources do we have and they have that we can bring together to get people to understand the value of this new tool, resource, or simply going from a certain network to a network that might be better for them, and teach them that over time. So that's kind of the large picture of what we do. We really want to prioritize it. We'll bring these solutions and recommendations to the client and let them tell us how they feel about it and what they're comfortable with implementing, right? And the only time we'll really push heavy on a particular issue is if we know they're bleeding out on funds, or the plan design is really hurting them financially, and then we'll really lean into it and let them know that priority needs to, we recommend that that be adjusted for these reasons, but ultimately we know that we have to meet them where they're at.
Okay, so you guys got to be, gurus on change management to get, HR people and other operations people on board with anything that requires change. So what's your voodoo magic that you guys bring to the table to make everybody excited about these changes you got to make?
We flip coins and put them in the wishing wells all the time. No, no. In all seriousness, it's really communication and transparency. Is we have to understand what the driving factors are, and it's always, whether it's the C-suite or the HR, the employees are the foundation of the company, right? So understanding what their needs are, what their thoughts are, what their dreams are, finding that to be able to address those. It impacts each of those three: the C-suite, the HR, the CFO, CEO, and everyone with any part of the company. So I think that's really going back to that. It's we truly mean what we say. Is we want to improve the benefit package, and that may mean that it's changing slightly. It may mean that it's improving. It may mean that in some scenarios where the deductible is going up because we need the employees to be more engaged to understand what they're doing impacts the plan in this way. So there is conversations that have to be had. So it's not always just about trying to decrease something to reduce costs. It may be decreasing something to create a better engagement and a better strategy for the employees, and then giving them the tools and the resources to make better decisions at a lower price point. Our AI can find a scenario in which, an MRI at provider A is $1,000, an MRI at provider B is $800, and an MRI provider C is $500. Well, the employee will never make the decision without information if they didn't know it was available. They're going to automatically go to the $1,000 one, right? So it's giving them the tools to lead them to the right decision. And so, if we can show that and we continue to show that, that's ultimately where we've had success. That's ultimately how we drive change. That's ultimately how we make the employees happy, we make the employer happy, and then ultimately create that long-term, believe, like, trust strategy.
I would only add this real quick, because I agree with everything there. I think there's a misnomer too that we're just doing this at the very beginning, right? We meet a client or a company and we partner with them, and then we get them to a certain place, and then we smile and we wave, and then we wait until the problem happens. And quite frankly, we pick up a lot of new partnerships because other folks and consultants in the field do that. They get lazy, right? One of the things that we do, and it's a fun tool that we use to engage our clients on an ongoing basis. Sometimes it's quarterly, sometimes it's monthly. Depends on, you know, the state of affairs, right? If Rome's burning, and then you got to do it more frequently. If everything's great, then we might do it, you know, twice a year, every quarter. But it's called a weather report, and it's kind of a start, stop, continue, right? What's cloudy, what's sunny, what's rainy, and our teams will go through and we'll look at the things that are working, the things that are not working. And it's a really cool one-page document that I have to actually give credit to JW for this. You know, he put together, and a lot of our clients love it because it's simple, it's bite-sized information, it addresses where we started, where we're at, and where we're going on an ongoing basis, not just upfront. And I think that's something every person watching this just needs to ask themselves: are we getting that right now? Because if I'm only talking to you once or twice a year, you're probably not.
Right. I loved it. The idea about tying back the growth of EBITDA to the mission and to the vision of the organization, rather than just looking at it from a financial, you know, CEO, you know, bringing the information downhill. I heard change consultant expert Hellener once said one time, the mission is our boss. And if the mission is to grow EBITDA, then that's the boss, and it's going to control all of our decisions, not just growing EBITDA, but a whole bunch of other things as well. So we all are submissive to the mission and to the vision of what we set out to create. And there's a lot of people that get an opportunity to have input around that. So wrapping up, Jeff, any final questions for the guys?
No, you just went off on that, and I thought about, you know, culture and core values and all these other things, right? Do the employees, if you hire 10 people and 5 of them leave, does that help EBITDA? What does it cost to hire 5 more people, right? People don't really look at that. Like, they're looking at turnover. I mean, I always had high turnover in salespeople because generally they're lazy. And if you're not going to do your job, and, you know, you're out, right? So sales is kind of different, but when you're hiring good people and you can't keep them, dear God, that affects EBITDA, revenue. It makes the customers mad. You got another new person. What kind of organization are you running over there? You know, I got to meet a new CSR customer. So it's funny that core values, culture come into all that in mission. You know, we're going to drive EBITDA as if that's, you know, raise revenue, cut expenses. But if you're losing employees, high turnover is really expensive, especially if you're paying 20% of a salary. $100,000 guy, gal cost me 20 grand for a recruiter. Really? How many times you want to do that every year? Because you're off on your mission, your culture, you know what I mean? So whatever, I'll end with that. So
yeah, Daniel
Jeff,
Priestley
I just
wrote it.
add one thing I'd add to that. Think about it this way: if your turnover is high and you're starting to engage an employee and you create some of positive engagement in regards to how they use the benefits plan or how they're actually taking care of their health, and you're only there for a year, you're not benefiting your company because you don't see the results typically that quickly. You just benefited your competitor. So you're making your competitor's employees healthier and more competitive to your organization. So when you think about it, creating the strategy to attract, number one, but most importantly, to retain, there is a very, very, very important component to your benefits package and retaining those employees, putting the right plans together, getting the right solutions, and controlling their costs.
Yeah, well, I know that Daniel Priestley wrote a book quite a few years ago called 24 Assets, and he basically broke down all of the different asset classes of a business, and how you grow your valuation as a business is you grow each individual asset, and benefits is one of those assets. And if that has become a liability, then your company is not going to be as valuable. So going back to Jeff's quote, you know, profitable revenue fixes everything. Well, what we talked about today was improving EBITDA through cutting out the waste and improving the quality of your insurance services and your benefits packages. And what are some of the next steps that if people are watching this, we're going to put in the show notes the opportunities to connect with Mike and JW and to get some resources, complimentary resources and assessments, and being able to get some of the tools that they have access to, and really just doing a deep dive, quick deep dive on just assessing where it is that they think that they could improve. But any final last words, guys?
No, the best way is just, reach out, and Dave, and I think you'll put our information up there and on the video as well. So reach out via phone, via email, whatever it may be, our website, whatever it takes to get to us. We're more than happy to have those conversations. Again, whether it's California, Arizona, Iowa, Nebraska, as I'd say, I really don't want to work with people from Missouri, but I'm just joking. I'm from Kansas. But again, Florida, New York, New Jersey, it doesn't really matter where you're at. And we have the tools, we have the strategy, we have feet on ground in almost every one of those states, if not every one of those states. So let us help you. We can give you honest feedback and put you hopefully in the right direction. My number one goal, and when I got into this, the person that convinced me to get into the wonderful world of insurance and benefits said, if you're not willing to help your competitor, you're not willing to help yourself, because we're always trying to improve every single component that is in the world of insurance. And if we can find a way that everybody gets better, ultimately, then the results get better.
Wonderful. Well, we decided to title this How to Improve EBITDA to Fund Growth and Cut Waste. And what we do at Grow My Profit is help you to grow your business. And if you're in a position where you don't have the capital to invest into growth, this is definitely one of the conversations that you need to have, because the savings that JW and Mike can create and provide could fund your next salesperson. It could fund your next operations person, or it can fund a consulting relationship with Grow My Profit to help you to scale your business. And it's no additional expense on top of what you're already paying. So lots of opportunities ahead. Mike, any final words?
I would just say that we know that companies need effective and trusted resources. We're here to offer a second look, and we really appreciate you guys having us on today.
Great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks, guys. Bye, guys.